In this video lesson, I'm going to show you how to use the website Zotero to create an APA-style reference list. So this is the website Zotero, and I'll take you in here in just a moment to show you how to use this. But first, I want to show you what I mean by an APA-style reference list. So this is an example of an essay that is formatted in APA style. And so first what you'll notice is kind of a normal essay. And as you get all the way to the end, the final page is the reference list. And this is the list of sources that this student used for her essay. And so what you see here is the reference list, and this is what I'm going to show you how to create. And through this lesson, I'm actually going to recreate this reference list right here. So this is the list I will be showing you how to create today using Zotero. So back to Zotero. So this is Zotero, and this is it's called a citation generator, and it's basically a program that, as long as you give this program the information about your sources, it can create a reference for you in APA style or in many other styles. So Zotero is going to be a very, very useful tool for you as you're studying. You can see that I've used it a lot. I've got many sources down the list here. And one thing that's really nice about Zotero is you can organize things into folders, which I highly recommend because after a few years of studying, you're going to be like me. You're going to have lots and lots of sources. And you're going to want to be able to perhaps go back and find them more easily. So I've got a nice folder here for my class this semester. And so I'm going to get started creating my first reference. And the first reference I'm going to create is going to be for my academic journal source, which I found through Articles Plus through the Ohio University Library. And so to create a new reference, you see this plus sign up here. You click plus, and then you have to, whenever you're creating a new reference on Zotero, you have to choose the type of source. And so this type of source is a journal article. As we said, an academic journal article. So I'll select journal article. And then you'll see over on the side here, there's spaces for lots of information. And so I'll just start at the top and I'll work my way down. So first it's asking me for the title. So I'll go to the entry here. I'll copy my title and I'll paste it in there. Okay. Next it's asking me for the author. And you'll note that they have space for last name, comma, first name. So I'll find my author here. So I see two here. I see Ut J. And so one thing to note, you can see the comma in the middle here. So this is already in last name, first name format. So I will put Ut, and for the first name, I'll type exactly what I saw in Articles Plus, which was just J period. In this article, you'll notice though has two authors, and I need to make sure that both of their names are in there. So all the way over on the right side here, you'll see a plus and a minus. So I'll do plus, and that'll add my second author. And I saw that the second author was Tachluk S. So I'll be careful to be sure that I'm spelling their name correctly. Okay, now I have my authors. The next thing it asks for is publication. And what they mean by publication is what is the name of the journal? What is the name of the magazine or the news source or whatever? So here we can see source on Articles Plus. That information is usually listed here under source. So we see urban education. And so urban education is going to be the name of the publication. And then it asks for some other things like volume and issue. And those things you'll always find in here as well. Urban education. So volume and issue you'll often see listed just as numbers here. So whenever you see a number like this followed by another number in parentheses, you know the first number is the volume, the second number is the issue. So I'll put 55 for my volume, 1 for my issue. They would like the page numbers, so I can see the next set of numbers, 125 to 152. These here are the page numbers. And the last thing it asks for is the date. And so I can see 1st January 2020. So I will put that in. There's a lot of ways to put the date, but I'll put 1-1-2020. That's how we do it usually in America, January 1st, 2020. Okay. And so one thing I want to say about this information here, the volume, the issue, the pages, the date. So this is just one example of what that information might look like. There's actually a lot of different ways that it could be written. So just do your best to try to find this information and put it in accurately when you're creating your own references. Next, there's a lot of information, series title, series text, journal abbreviation, language. We don't really need any of that stuff. That stuff is probably not going to be necessary for you. But what is going to be really helpful for a journal article, remember that the goal here is so that your reader can easily find the source that you used. That's why you give them things like the author's name, the title, the year that it was published. Those things will really help a reader find the source that you used. But even more useful would be if they had just an easy way to find it on the internet. The URL is usually the easiest way for most online sources. And many academic journals will also have a URL. However, even for an academic journal, even better than a URL is this, something called a DOI number. And it'll look like this, just a long number with lots of dashes in it. So I'm going to copy that DOI, and I'm going to put that in here for and I want to show you really quickly what a DOI is and why it's so useful for academic journal articles. So there's a website, doi.org, and this website is designed to help you find academic journal articles. So if you just put the number in there and you submit, let's see if this works. It might work, it might not. Ah, look, it took me directly to this article. So that's why the DOI number is so useful for academic journal articles, and it's usually even better than the URL. And so now, okay. So and then there's more stuff down there: ISSN, short title, URL. We don't need any of these things as well. For an academic journal article, this is usually the information that you need to include. So there we go. I've added my first source, but I have a few more sources, so I'm going to add each of them as well. The next source I want to add is going to be my, is a news source here that I got from this website called Vox, which is a news site. So news sites are a little tricky, but if I hit plus, so first you'll notice book section, case. So news website is not listed here. So I got to go down to more. And then it'll give me a much larger set of options. However, none of them actually says like news website. So what I almost always use for a news site is newspaper article. Depending on the site, sometimes I'll say magazine article. And the other thing that I maybe sometimes will use is just the web page option. But most of the time, if your online source is a news source, then newspaper article is probably going to be your best choice. So again, I need to put in my information. So I start with the title, and you can just copy it, paste it right in there for the title. I need my author's name. So I see that the author is Fabiola Cineas. So remember, I'm going to put in last name, Cineas, and then first name, Fabiola. For publication, again, like what is the name of like the newspaper or the website, or the magazine. So this is from Vox. So for publication, I'm going to type Vox. Place, edition. So if when it's an online news source like Vox, they don't really have a place or edition. Those are usually for printed newspapers. Date, however, it will have a date. So I see April 8th, 2020. So I'm going to put that in the American style. The good news about Zotero is it's pretty smart, so you can actually put the date in a few different ways, and it will recognize like what the date is. But what you'll notice right here, 2020-4-8. This is like the more international way. So always double check to make sure that the date comes out correct here. So section, pages, don't need those things for an online source. Language is not necessary. Usually the only time you'd put language in is if your source is not in English. Otherwise, if your source is in English and your essay is in English, then don't worry about the language. So now, short title, ISSN, don't worry about it. But now we have URL. So the URL is really important because remember, if you think about it, the easiest way for a person to find this news story that you used would be to give them the URL, and they can go directly to the news source themselves. So I'm going to copy it from the navigation bar. I'm going to paste it in there. And then we have more things accessed archive. I'm just, again, these things aren't necessary. Usually for a news article, if you got the title, the author, publication, the date, and the URL, that's usually all you're going to need. So now I've got two sources, and I've got two sources left that I want to add. The third type of source is a book, because I'm actually reading a book about my topic as well. So I'm going to hit the plus button, and I have book right there at the top as an option. So so now I'm going to go through, and I have the book next to me, so you guys can't see it right now. But the title of my book is Raising White Kids. The author's name is Jennifer Harvey, so I'm going to put Harvey, comma, Jennifer. It's not part of a series or volume, so I don't have series number, volume numbers, editions, none of that I have. I do have the place and the publisher though, and usually for a book what you'll do is on one of the first, if you just flip through the first couple of pages, you'll usually find the copyright information on one of the very, very early pages. And so in here I find the place that it was published was Nashville, Tennessee. I see in here that the publisher is called Abingdon. That's the name of the company that published this. And the date listed is 2017 as the year that this was published. None of the rest of this stuff is really going to be necessary. Since it's a book, I don't need a URL. So basically books are simple. You only need a couple pieces of information. And I have one last type of source that I'm going to include in here, and that is an interview. So again, interview is not listed on these like top 6 types of sources. So I'm going to hit more, and as I scroll down, I'll find interview right here. Interview is simple. You don't need a lot of information because you actually spoke directly to this person. But even though this was a direct personal communication, you still have to include it on your reference list because you're still considering the interview that you did as a source for your work. With an interview, you don't need to put in a title because you probably didn't give your interview a name, so no problem. But you should put the person that you interviewed. So the person I interviewed was Dr. Robin Muhammad. So I'll put Muhammad, comma, Robin. I will put in the date, which was July 10th, 2020. And there's only one more thing that you need to do for an interview, and that is the medium. And so for the medium, you should just write personal communication. And that just indicates that you spoke with this person directly. So once you've got those three things in, that's it. That's all you need for an interview source. So now what I can see in my folder is that I've got my 4 sources, and I'm actually ready now to create my reference list. And this is where Zotero becomes really, really, really helpful, and it saves you so much time and effort. So first I'm going to select all 4 of my sources at once, make sure they're all highlighted. And then up here at the top, it looks like a stack of books, maybe on a bookshelf, and you'll see that it says Create Bibliography. Bibliography is another word for a list of references. So I'll click on this. And the first thing you'll notice, actually, is you make sure you have the correct citation style. I have mine set for APA, American Psychological Association, 7th edition. But if you click on this, so they've got a couple sources, a couple styles. APA, which is really common in a lot of fields. Chicago is also very common. MLA, Turabian, I'm not as familiar with. But then you'll notice 9,700 other styles available. So that's why Zotero can be really useful to you even after my class, even if you're not using APA style anymore. You can use this to create references and reference lists and bibliographies in a range of different styles, no matter what style your professor is requiring of you. So I've got APA. You can see that it's actually created the list for me here. And down here below, I can click Copy to Clipboard. All right, I'm copied. And then I find my blank page where I'm going to put my reference list. I paste it. And there you go. So my reference list is complete. It's been formatted correctly. It's double spaced. It's got the hanging indent right here, which is a requirement of APA style. And it's even been put in alphabetical order according to the source. So this is a fully, properly referenced, fully accurate APA style reference list using Zotero. The one last thing I'll say about using Zotero to create reference lists is, when you're putting in this information, the first thing I'll say, it might be tricky for you to know which information you should put in and how you should find it. So I'm just going to say do your best to put in, do your best to put in the information that it's asking for, and do your best to put it in accurately. As long as you do your best and you get some basic things like the author, the title, and the date, then you're probably not going to be accused of plagiarism. It probably won't be a big problem if you miss a couple of things. However, you do need to, it is really your responsibility as a good student to make sure that you get, this information in here and you get it accurate. So while on one hand I will tell you just do your best and, do the best work that you can, on the other hand, you really shouldn't just give up and be lazy and say, oh well, I can't find the information, so I'll skip it. You really should do your best to find the information that's needed for a proper reference and put it in accurately. So I hope this helps, and good luck creating your reference lists.